Hello and welcome back to the S&S Football Podcast. We are back with another episode. Weekly content is here. We promised it. It's happening. I'm delighted to be joined by Braden. Braden, my man, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Again, we're sort of back now, which is good to see as always. It's been a long time, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So, yeah, no, it's good to be back. Good to be back.
Already a comment in. Alfie, lovely to see you back, mate. Let's go. Okay, tonight we are going to be reviewing Game Week 24, which has just happened, as well as previewing Game Week 25, and we'll have predictions and all sorts going on. Braden, it was a very entertaining game week. My team as well. I have no idea how I'm going to speak about that, but we start off at St James's Park. Newcastle beating Everton 3-1 on Tuesday night. Braden, what are your thoughts on this one, mate?
Again, unfortunately, with a lot of these games, because they were either, Tuesday or Thursday, I was coaching, so it's difficult to watch them. But I seen this result and I was really shocked, to be honest. And Alfie, who's in, is obviously an Everton fan, I know. I think with this result, I don't know if it shocked me because I thought maybe more of Newcastle's new signings would play. I think Dan Burn was on the bench, etc. But they just seem to pull it out of nowhere, really. Everton have been doing okay under Frank. Obviously, his first game was a win against Brentford in the FA Cup. So I thought they'd have the quality to win this. But in the end, I mean, the Trippier free kick is a really well-hit free kick. And it drags Everton a little bit closer to that relegation battle than probably what they'd want to be. And I spoke to Kieran about this on, when was it? I think it was on Wednesday. We were talking about obviously Donny being at Everton, but also just Everton in general. And they're getting dragged in there a little bit. I mean, they're only a couple of points above it. But like I said, I think Everton will have the quality to stay up, no doubt. They've obviously got Frank in now, who's going to have to take time to implement what he wants into Everton. So they'll be fine. But it was just a bit of a shock result in any sense. And maybe 3-1 as well. As maybe a 1-0 would have been like, fair enough to either team, but 3-1, Newcastle scoring 3 times. So yeah, it's an interesting result that for the bottom half of the table.
Just a quick comment in from Lucas, came from TikTok. Nice to see you, Lucas. And Alfie, off the back of what you've said, we outplayed Newcastle in the first half, but as soon as they scored, the crowd made the difference for Newcastle. They were up for it, especially getting a 1-1 draw away to them. I did watch this game on Tuesday. I was flicking between this and the United game. I've got to admit, I was very impressed with Newcastle. Everton looked good in spells, but I felt like Everton made far too many changes and it actually ended up disrupting the flow of their team. And if I'm being honest, I think overall the balance of play, I do think Newcastle deserved to win the game. Villa are going to Newcastle on Sunday, and I've got to admit I'm not confident at all going into the game because Newcastle do look a really well-balanced and organised side. And, and Alfie said from Leeds and Everton play... God, my voice is going there. From Leeds and Everton play Leeds on Saturday, yeah. So, look, Alfie, for Leeds... Everton, we're going to preview that in a minute. But for Everton, they do need to get results very quickly. They are getting dragged into a fight that they don't necessarily need to be in. I do think Frank Lampard's a good manager, and I do think he'll get them out there. But a very good result for Newcastle nonetheless. That's now 2 Premier League wins on the bounce. Hopefully they don't make it through on Sunday, but I've got to be honest, I think they might. We move on to the next game. Bit of a quick one to go over. Watford are a bit in the mud. West Ham 1-0 through Jarrod Bowen. An expected result?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into this game, West Ham clear favourites, especially where they are in the league as well. That sort of that top four race again is really hotting up. You look at likes of your West Ham, obviously we'll speak about Arsenal as well, Man United, all in and around there. And with Watford, obviously Roy's just come in, got a clean sheet against Burnley, I think it was, which is the first one they've had in God knows how long. So that was good for them. But I think at the end of the day, a West Ham win was on the cards. Okay, it's only by the one goal, so that'll probably be pleasing for Watford. It wasn't by 2 or 3, which, it could possibly have been. But yeah, I mean, Watford, they're in a real battle. I mean, if we look at the teams down there, your Newcastles, your Burnley, Watford, Norwich. I don't fancy them to be the one that stays up. I think Newcastle obviously massively invested in January. Norwich will be an interesting one to keep an eye on because we're so used to them going up and down. You never know with Dean Smith in charge whether he could just do about enough to keep them up. So I just think with Watford, they've got a really uphill battle to stay in the Premier League. They've obviously brought Roy in, sort of last roll of the dice to try and keep him up. I doubt, if he doesn't start winning games, they'll sack him and get another man in because that'll be 4 then in this season. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I'd be shocked still, nevertheless. So look, it's not the worst result for Watford. Of course, they probably would have been happy with a point. But at the end of the day, a 1-0 loss to West Ham isn't the end of the world. And I'm sure there'll be other games they're focusing on to really pick up 3 points in, mainly around the teams in and around them, like your Newcastles, etc.
Yeah, I definitely think, look, Watford did well to stay in the game. But yeah, I said when we were speaking about the Watford thing, I said, look, Roy Hodgson will stabilise them. He will make them a lot tougher to beat, which is evident. They've only shipped 1 goal in their previous 2, got their first clean sheet, and I think it was 34 games, Ben Foster said, after the game, which is just bizarre, really, because I do think Foster and Bachmann are 2 decent keepers. But we move on to your game. Burnley 1, Man United 1. Man United taking the lead in the first half, and then Burnley firing back early in the second half, and that's all she wrote, really. Braden, I'll obviously go to you, being a United fan. What did you make of this game? Because I thought United were incredibly impressive. I flicked between this one and the Everton game, and I was impressed with Man United, especially in the first half. But it seems to be a bit of a tale with United at the moment, and very similar with Villa as well. You play well for one half, but you can't emulate it for the second half.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Man United at the minute, I don't think there's much more Rangnick can actually do. I mean, you look at the performances and the chances we've created in the past 3 games, obviously against Burnley, in the cup against Middlesbrough, where obviously we lost again. And it might have been the game beforehand as well. We've had, I can't remember the stat now, but it's like 30 odd shots have been created and so many have been on target. And you just look at it and go, the performances have been there. We're just not being clinical enough. And going back to this game, obviously really, really well worked goal to go 1-0 up. Pogba back on the score sheet, obviously back from injury, which is good. But again, the VAR for the second goal, I mean, I'm struggling to work out how that hasn't been given for Varane. And even the one against Middlesbrough as well is still baffling because we've seen accidental handballs been given. I mean, there was a Luke Shaw one earlier on in the season where, Noble obviously missed the pen in the end against West Ham, but that's no dissimilar to Watmore's, in my opinion. The arm's still out. It's hit his arm, it's handball. But this one, I mean, Maguire's offside, yes, but before that he gets pushed offside. Yeah. And then the player he impedes is nowhere near the ball anyway. So I can actually see a reason as to why it didn't be given. Anyway, speaking of Maguire, he gets turned inside out again for Burnley's goal. Weghorst does really well, plays in Rodriguez and makes it 1-1. But that seems to be the problem with United is we played really well up until that point. As soon as Burnley scored, it was like, oh, what do we do now? We have to force crosses into the box and get bodies into the box and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's disappointing because it's dropped points. I mean, I hate playing Burnley as it is, either home or away. But, you're Man United, you should win those games. And especially if you want to be playing Champions League football next season, you have to win those games. And we've seen obviously with Arsenal, we'll speak about them in a bit, picked up a result against Wolves, a very good Wolves team as well. So it's on. The top 4 race is really on, and it's a missed chance for United to stay in the pack, really.
Yeah, I think, look, Burnley away is always going to be a difficult game. They are bottom of the league, but they've got a lot of games in hand. They have got a decent side and they are decent at home. And one thing I didn't realise until I looked at the table is they've got a very good defensive record. So it was always going to be a difficult game for United. Look, I do agree with you on the VAR situation. I have no idea really why it got disallowed. And I do agree with you about Ranić having his hands tied behind his back. Whether it's a goal like that getting disallowed, Ronaldo missing a penalty, just things aren't really going Man United's way. And hopefully for United, they can start turning a point into 3 points because that top 4 race is really hotting up. With West Ham getting their result, Arsenal getting a result. Spurs, yeah, they did drop points, but they do still have games in hand. So, it's going to be really interesting to see who makes that top 4 for sure. Pretty easy one to speak about, pretty expected. Manchester City 2, Brentford 0, City taking the lead just before half time, and then cementing that with a second goal in the second half. Look, City are now 7 points clear. It was 10 after this game was played, but it went back to 7 as Liverpool picked up their result against Leicester. But what can we say about Man City at this point? They are just binning teams off and making it look easy, aren't they?
Do you know what? It's funny. We spoke about this the other day as a few of the boys come round to the flat and stuff, and we were saying with City, it's boring how good they are.
Yeah.
And, that's not the worst compliment. Like, that is really not the worst compliment you can receive. I mean, for everyone else, it is almost a shock if City drop points. So, like, when they drop points to, I think it was Palace at home earlier on in the season, it was, oh my God, what's going on? Because it doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen unless they had a really dodgy season when obviously Liverpool won the league. But apart from that, they don't drop points. They really don't. And if they do, they still find a way to go on an unbelievable run. Like you look at last season when sort of United and City was a little bit neck and neck in sort of January time. City just went on like, what was it, a 20-game win run, and that was it.
Yeah.
They won the league, simple as that. So, it's Man City, an absolute machine. Pep knows exactly what he wants. He knows the type of players he wants to put into his system. If they don't fit the system, they'll be off. That's why I think with we might end up speaking about him later, but maybe with Grealish and his antics as well, is he really fitting the Pep system? Because obviously I don't want to dob him in here, but the lack of media scrutiny, shall we say, for £100 million player and the numbers he's returned hasn't been fantastic, and a really good Man City team. Whereas obviously, they're always talking about Sancho, and you look at the state United's in at the minute. So again, City are just a machine. 2-0 win over Brentford. If Brentford got anything out of the game, would have been a massive shock. So yeah, but like I said, even on Brentford's side, 2-0 loss to Manchester City isn't the end of the world. I mean, they'd be probably relatively pleased that it wasn't a thumping. As with any club in the league, that's not to say how good or bad Brentford are. City are quite easily handing out a 7-0 loss, when they want to. So yeah, again, City, I think they're still the favourites to win it. I know Liverpool are kicking about, and you've got Chelsea in and around there, but Pep just knows. He just knows. He's unbelievable as a manager, as a coach, and I would be shocked if City didn't maintain their lead at the top, and some team did catch them up and get ahead of them as well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, City are just a machine. Like you said, they are a phenomenal footballing team, and it's going to take a monumental effort and a monumental slip up for City to throw away the league. Just before we move on from this, Brentford are in a bit of a worrying situation. They've lost their last 5 coming into this. They've lost their last 4 coming into this game. That's now 5 losses on the bounce. Shock their last victory was against Villa, but are Brentford being sucked into this relegation battle? Because Brentford started the season very well, and everyone was thinking, God, could they be the new Leeds? Could they break into the top 10 in their first season and do really well? Tony stopped scoring, and Buemo hasn't really been in the goals. They're looking a little bit leaky at the back. Are Brentford going to get drawn into a relegation fight? Because it only takes you to go on a bit of a bad run like they have, and all of a sudden you start looking down. And with Norwich picking up results and Newcastle picking up results, it's going to be Brentford fans are going to have kittens if they keep losing. They've gone from a position where they looked stable in the Premier League to slumping further down the bottom of that table.
Yeah, well, I've just checked the table now because, to be honest, I haven't really seen where everyone is now. 6 points clear of the of Norwich, who occupy the last relegation place. It's still a decent enough margin for them at the minute. Obviously, they'll be disappointed not to have a win in their last 5. But the one thing we have to take into consideration as well is they do have Christian Eriksen coming into their squad. Now, obviously, the physical state that he was once in, is it going to be the same Christian Eriksen we see? But nevertheless, that is a top quality player that they have got into the team. And if he's obviously past fit to return to football and play at one of the highest levels in the Premier League, then he could be one of the main reasons as to why they do stay up. I do think they have the quality to stay in the Premier League, and I think in Thomas Frank, who is a bit of a grumpy bastard at times, he can. I think they'll steer him clear because I'm just looking at the table again here. I mean, you got the likes of Leeds, Everton, Newcastle, and obviously the bottom 3 below them. I don't see them finishing below them. I think Leeds have been interesting, I think is the word to say this season. And obviously we know the situation with Everton and Newcastle. So I think they'll be okay. They just obviously need to get out of this sort of purple patch that they're in terms of, 5 games without a win is not good. So they're going to need to start picking up points and wins in the future.
Yeah, definitely. A result that I've got to admit, I was speaking to my boss at work, and he wanted to put Crystal Palace on his ACCA, and I told him to avoid it. I said Norwich would get a result, and look what happened. Yes, granted, Palace missed the pen, an awful penalty from Wilfred Zaha. If you haven't went and saw the penalty, please go and watch it. It's one of the worst I've ever seen. Norwich took the lead in the first minute, to which my boss messaged me with a load of crying emojis, and he said, I should have listened to you. But Palace, Zaha scores an absolute worldie to make it 1-1. And Norwich did have to hold on. Palace really pressed late on. They wanted the win, but Norwich stood firm. And that's 7 points now in Norwich's last 3 games. They are weirdly picking up form. And like I said about Brentford, if Norwich keep picking up results, it's going to make things difficult for Brentford. And like Lucas says here, hear me out, Norwich is staying up and Brentford will go down. And he says it depends on what level Eriksen comes back with. And this is the thing. When we were talking about the transfers the other week, and I said about Norwich potentially staying up, people probably raised a few eyebrows, but I really do believe that Dean Smith's system suits the Norwich players to a certain extent. And they're a bit of a dark horse in that race because everyone's wrote them off. So they've got a free hit in every game they play. And I do back Dean Smith in a 90-minute game against most teams down there, and getting a draw at home to Palace in a game that most people would have said, a couple of weeks ago, Palace to win 2 or 3-0. They've got a decent result. So, but briefly skimming over it, what did you think of that as a result, mate?
Yeah, I mean, Norwich have had some big wins and performances. I mean, obviously the one against Watford stands out, 3-0, I think it was in the end. And like you said, 7 points in their last 9. That is some top form. If they can continue that, over the next 2 to 3 games, keep that momentum going, then, they're going to be questions asked of the teams above them. Like, obviously, we did mention Brentford. Again, like I said, I just think for now, that 6 point gap, I mean, if Brentford obviously not won in their last 5, so that's what makes them slump down a little bit. But if Brentford start picking up results, they'll be fine because that 6-point gap, obviously will obviously stay the same, as stupid as I just sound there. But yeah, like I said, Norwich have a free hit because everyone expect them to go back down, especially when Daniel Farke was still in charge, who did beat Brentford, I do believe, in his last game.
Yeah.
So they've got a free run at it. And like I said, Dean Smith's come in. He knows a relegation scrap. He obviously done it with your boys in his first season back in the Prem. And, who knows? Who knows with Norwich? They need to obviously win the games against the teams around them like they did with Watford. And also in games like these against Palace, a decent Palace team, who are doing relatively well, can they nick a point? Can they nick a win off of them? And like I said, there's a hard penalty. I think the less said, the better, to be honest. But no, a good point for Norwich to, keep them ticking over and, just make sure you do all right.
We've got a few comments flooding in. I've got to do it. Stand up if you love the darts. I've got to do it. I loved every minute of the Premier League. Absolutely every minute of the Premier League, just to go away from football a little bit. Bruce, what a comment that is, mate. Up to Johnny Clayton. That's 2 wins in the Premier League now for him. Jack says, Zanu for League One Player of the Year. No chance. It's Dan Scott any day. Brentford have dropped off a lot since Mbuemo is the main man, really. Yeah, it's Ivan Toney. I don't really know what's been going on with Toney. Obviously, that video of him coming out saying some explicit stuff about Brentford. But yeah, he just hasn't really been banging in the goals. Another comment here from Jack. Come on, Brendan Johnson's the Championship man. My mate's a Forest fan and he's absolutely loving every minute of it. And I've always felt that Norwich have had enough quality to stay up the last couple of seasons. I don't want to talk too much about Norwich, but it is an interesting one with Norwich because they did invest really heavily in the summer. And I think a lot of people were really confused when they didn't actually buy anyone in the January transfer window. But if Dean Smith keeps him up, that is a remarkable job because he's had his hands tied behind his back, really. Like he can't buy any of his own players. He probably wanted to bring in players, but he couldn't with the budget. And he's having to use players for his system that he doesn't necessarily probably want. He's asking players to do jobs that they don't usually do. And it somehow at the moment seems to be working. So if I'm a Norwich fan, I'm a bit optimistic at the moment because at one stage you looked absolutely gone, and now you're looking a little bit all right. So we move on. The shock result by an absolute country mile of the game week. Tottenham 2, Southampton 3. This destroyed my acca. If that doesn't tell you not to bet, then I don't know what does. They robbed me of 47 quid off a pound. Look, Tottenham haven't lost since Conte's come in, and then this happens. I mean, I didn't even realise Southampton are actually ahead of us in the league now. I have no idea how, because every time, like, I just haven't paid attention to Southampton's results, I don't think. But what a result. To go down twice and get a win away at Spurs, what a result. I had these lot in my bottom 3 at the start of the season. What a result this is.
Mate, I mean, we had this game on in the background as we were sort of, getting ready to go out in the evening, and it was just bonkers. Like, it was just goal after goal, and obviously Villa's game was happening as well, so we kept flicking between the two, which I'm sure we'll speak about in a minute. But, yeah, fair play to Southampton. Great result. Tottenham did lose to Chelsea, obviously, away under Conte, but, they're still a very well-run team with a fantastic manager. And for Southampton to get a result there is magnificent, and that'll help them kick on a little bit further up the table. I mean, Armando Broja, Chelsea fans got to be absolutely licking their lips at him. And, there's a couple of Chelsea fans over at the time, and a lot of them are quite happy to sack off Lukaku and get that man in the team for next season up top. They're more than happy for that to happen, and that just shows you the level of player he is at the minute and how well he's doing. So again, what a player, what a signing. He's been on loan for Southampton. I'm sure they'll be gutted to probably lose him at the end of the season, but for now, I mean, he is one player.
Yeah, Brozier's he has impressed everyone this season. You know, there was a massive element of risk with Southampton's recruitment this summer. They were heavily criticised for their business. You know, selling Danny Ings to us and then bringing in Livramento, who's never really played in the Premier League before, Brozier. These sorts of players that are young, talented players, but have never really been given a stint in the first team. And you just have to give your hats off to Ralph Hasenhüttl. He's done absolute wonders with the Southampton team. You know, they've had the new takeover as well, 100 million takeover this season. So for Southampton, it's looking really positive. And I'll hold my hands up. I got this one really wrong with the Saints. I thought selling Danny Ings and selling Vestergaard as, you know, it's probably relegated them. But both players at the respective clubs they've gone to have not really done well. And like a commenter's just said there, Kyle Walker-Peters, he has been fantastic since he left Tottenham. And James Ward-Prowse getting 2 assists as well. I mean, how long are we going to talk about James Ward-Prowse's consistency before he gets a regular England shirt? Like, it's just getting beyond a joke now. His numbers are staggering for Southampton, and I really hope in these next internationals that James Ward-Prowse gets the game time that he deserves because, yeah, he's a quality footballer. Disappointing result for Tottenham, of course, but I'm sure they'll be back. I'm sure Conte will get them rolled up for the next game. Where do I start? I'm going to let you speak about this first, mate. I don't even want to talk about it for that long. One of the most bizarre games of football I think I've ever seen in my life. Mixture of emotions. Wow. Go on, mate. Take the floor.
Well, I mean, where on earth do we start with this game? Before we do so, I'm just going to go through a few of the comments because they have been obviously flooding in, and it's important we get you guys involved as well. There's one I did want to speak about just quickly, and it was Mustafa speaking about James Garner at Man United and would we call him back ready for the league? I think James Garner's had an unbelievable season at Nottingham Forest. I was a little bit underwhelmed where they were before, obviously, Steve Cooper come in because they were near the bottom half of the championship, and it's not great, but he's been magnificent for them since Steve Cooper's come in. Would I get him back? I would definitely try him out in pre-season again. And I think what we'd have to do from there is if he was to go on loan, it'd have to be in the Premier League just to give him that extra bit of experience. But if he's ready for Man United, by all means, put him in and give him a chance in that DM role because he could make it his own. So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on James Garner because he is again a hell of a player as well. Just there was one more I wanted to point out. Danny Ings shouldn't have left Southampton. So before we speak about Villa, do you want to add your thoughts onto that one, Morgan, about should Danny Ings really have left Southampton?
Look, I think hindsight's a wonderful thing. I think, people will always say now, looking at how the Ings transfers worked out, that he shouldn't have left. And I'm a football purist. I'm not going to say that because at the end of the day, he's still scored goals for us. Yes, he hasn't been as prolific as he was at Southampton, but what you've got to remember is we've had a transition of manager. We brought Danny Ings in to fit a 3-5-2 that Dean Smith wanted to play. Steven Gerrard now wants to play a 4-3-3 with 2 inside 10s and a striker that's willing to run channels. Danny Ings is not willing to run channels. Danny Ings is a finisher. He is a natural number 9 that will finish anything. And I think hindsight's a wonderful thing. People will say that he shouldn't have left, but it's not as if he's washed up at Villa. Like, it's just because Ollie Watkins is playing ahead of him. It's not as if a poor striker's getting in the team ahead of him. I think Ings will be in the team a lot more now because Ollie Watkins is bang out of form. And if there's anyone that I believe can get the best out of Danny Ings, it's Steven Gerrard, who worked with him at the academy at Liverpool and knows the guy really, really well inside out. So, yeah, look, I think it was a great bit of business from Southampton, especially at the age that he's at and considering who they've actually replaced him with. I don't even think, I actually think he should have left Southampton if you look at what Saints have done with the investment out of it. So, from a Villa point of view, yeah, all right, people will probably say, look, yeah, you probably shouldn't have got him. But like Lucas has just said here, he's on 6 goals and assists this season. He's got better goals and assists than Jadon Sancho, and yet people seem to have it in for Danny Ings quite a lot, not working out at Villa. Like, he's still getting goals and assists, like I said. So, to be honest, mate, look, hindsight, like I said, yeah, all right, he probably doesn't look like the best transfer, but it's not as if he's turned up, bench warmed, and not got a single goal and an assist. So, yeah, I think Ings hopefully will get better for us as the season goes on, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been a difficult one for Danny Ings. Like you said, the transition in manager, the deal itself was so quiet. I just remember coming back home and it was like,
man.
Danny Ings has gone to Villa. It was like, sorry, what do you mean? So, yeah, no, I think, like you said, he's a finisher. He suits a certain style of play and, you have to utilize his strengths. And obviously, with Watkins being out of form, maybe Gerrard can get the best out of him as well. But Villa leads 3-0. Unbelievable. What a game. What a game for a neutral. I mean, you were probably ripping your hair out, to be fair. But
yeah,
fantastic game of football. And, Coutinho's been a hell of a signing for you, so unbelievable. And obviously Jacob Ramsey being in that team as well, he's taken it to the next level. But fair play to Leeds. They kept coming back. Dan James with, I think did he get 2 goals in the end? I don't know whether the header was his goal or not. So, it's good to see him sort of doing well for Leeds. He could be one of the main players that tries and gets them out of sort of the mess they're in with obviously injuries and stuff this season. The weight could sort of fall on him a little bit. So that was pleasing to see. But I've got to be honest, there was a point where I thought, Leeds might nick a winner here. And it was all set up for Leeds to potentially nick one. But you got a point out of it. Villa point of view, what was your thoughts on it?
Where do I start? I knew we were going to go 1-0 down. I knew Leeds were going to score. It was I don't like to out individual players. I really don't. But it comes a point where with Tyrone Mings, I'm sat here thinking that as a club, if Aston, put it in the comments below what you think of Tyrone Mings at Aston Villa, because look, he's an England centre half. I get it. He's our captain. I get it. But all 3 goals, in my opinion, he played a part in, especially the first and second. I mean, I was pulling my hair out watching the defending in the game. It was absolutely shambolic. I mean, Steven Gerrard put it perfectly. Magic going forward and absolutely horrendous going backwards. It was awful defensively. I mean, look, Leeds, we fell into the trap of playing a chess game with Leeds. We played Leeds at their own game, essentially, and that's what we didn't want to do. That's what we didn't set out to do. But because we went 1-0 down so early in the game, we almost had to. We had to go and take the game to Leeds quite early on. And look, it's magnificent that Villa have the attacking prowess and ability to go and put 3 past Leeds in a matter of minutes, My boy Jacob Ramsey, I mean, what a player. Honestly, stunning this season. 5 goals now for him. I think 7 goals and assists as well. He has really took his performance to the next level. And what a magic player we've signed, Philippe Coutinho. And it's so refreshing to hear that we've got first dibs on him for 33 million in the summer if he keeps playing like this, because I don't think Villa will hesitate once to put that 33 million towards him. I mean, 1 goal and 2 assists for him. That's 2 goals and 2 assists now in 3 games for him. I mean, going forward, we look absolutely breathtaking, and we are going to be some serious side when it gets assembled. But like Lucas has said here, Mings is woeful, and Jack saying Konza carries the back line. I've got to agree with him. As much as Konza wasn't great on Wednesday night, He's been much better at the two centre backs, Konza and Mings. So much better. Konza should be the one in the England squad, in my opinion. He's a fantastic centre back, but again with him, it just looked really weird because Konza losing his head at the end. Like, you've got absolutely no reason to go and do that to the keeper. You've now got yourself suspended for 2 games, not 1. So, I'm a game that I genuinely thought this is where Villa are going to really show and ooze their class. Going 3-1 up, that goal before half-time changes the whole complexion of the game. Such a poor... All 3 were terrible to concede, but that second one, I mean, oh my word, just how poor defensively we were. And as soon as they scored the goal, I thought, you know what? We're in trouble here. If we don't concede that goal, we go on and win the game 5-6-1. I have no doubt of that. We go and kill that game, but we let Leeds back into it, and Leeds should have won the game. On the balance of play, Leeds should have won the game, and Villa are lucky to come out with it with a point, and to score 3 at home and be lucky to get a point. I mean, just sums Villa up, really. But if Villa want to be a top 10 team and start challenging, we've got to do more. We have to defend better. We have to be more consistent because we are so inconsistent. You really do not know what you're getting. And just a comment from Lucas here. What do we think of the Digne signing? Look, Digne has been brilliant for Villa so far. I'm a real fan of him. I think he's got the attacking part of his game that's going to be key for the Gerrard philosophy, with the fullbacks almost playing as wingers so high up, with the 2 deep midfielders filling in for the wide players. So I think Digne is going to be massive for Villa, and I'm very impressed with him. And we will move on to Leicester in a minute about Rodgers, so we will come back to that comment, chat. But just to wrap up about Villa, mate, look, frustrating. Should have won the game. Shouldn't be throwing 3-1 leads away at home. 2 leads, pardon the pun, but just really disappointing from a Villa point of view. And before we move on to the next game, Digne is unbelievably going forward, but slightly lacking defensively. Good player, though. I would agree. I would agree that he is lacking defensively, but in Gerrard's system, I don't really think that he needs to defend as such, because John McGinn's probably going to fill that half space a lot. So, but anyway, we move on to Liverpool, Leicester. Liverpool 2, Leicester 0. I watched this game out of the 2 Thursday night games. Leicester absolutely toothless, in my opinion. Liverpool, what a debut from Luis Diaz. Looked really, really sharp. Liverpool, Rolls Royce, really just steamed through the game untroubled. Jota, what an unbelievable player. 2 more goals for him. Braden, what are your thoughts on this, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch this game. I've seen the result. Just quickly going back to Villa, obviously with Konza being suspended now and Mings being out of form, what was your sort of thoughts on the whole Tuanzebe situation? Obviously, he left Villa in the January and went to Napoli on loan in the end. Do you think that was just Gerrard not having him at all, or what do you think that spelled down to? Because I think we can all agree he's a really top quality centre half. He's not at Man United for no reason at all. So why didn't it work out, do you think, both sort of under Dean Smith and then Gerrard a little bit?
Konza and Mings are always going to be our starting 2 centre-backs if we play a back 4. Tuanzebe was brought in for the 3-5-2 that Dean Smith wanted to play. We played it quite a bit at the start of the season. The results were absolutely terrible, bar a Man United away performance. And Tuanzebe didn't even play in that because obviously he couldn't. The 3-5-2 really didn't work. Villa were far too open at the back. Tuanzebe was getting exposed a lot on the right side. Or I think he was actually central of the 3. Look, at the end of the day, I'm happy with who we've brought in to replace him. I would rather Tuanzebe go and get game time at Napoli on a regular basis. If I had it my own way, I'd I'd personally be putting Twanzebe and Konza in the back too, really. I think Mings' performance have been below par for a while, but Mings provides the balance being a left-footed centre-half and Konza being right-footed. So, look, Twanzebe was a bit of a disappointing one. I love the guy. He was so good in the season that we went up, but I just don't think Dean Smith... I think Dean Smith getting sacked really did fall in by the wayside, and Gerrard made it pretty clear at the start that his philosophy is not with a back three, and he doesn't fit into the back two over Konza as the right-sided centre-half. So, yeah, I think Twanzebe going was always going to happen.
Fair enough. So, back to Liverpool-Leicester again. Like I said, I didn't watch it, but again, I don't want to talk about Liverpool because we know that similar to City, when they perform, they win the game. It's as simple as that. Very, very rarely do they perform and not get the result, or do they drop points, especially at Anfield. So Leicester, where do we start with Leicester? We'll obviously speak a little bit about the FA Cup in a bit, but that result against Forest was, I don't even know what word to describe it. And I want to speak about Rodgers as well a little bit because there's a lot of talk about, a lot of pressure on him. Is his time maybe up at Leicester? If Leicester sack Brendan Rodgers, I can't see who they get in. That will be better than Rodgers. I think he needs to rebuild the squad. He's had a lot of injuries this season. Fofana's a massive one because Soyuncu and Vestergaard are woeful. Absolutely hopeless defending. I think even Maguire would probably go into their defense now and probably improve it. That's how bad it is. But they've got the quality, I think, in the final third and in the midfield. You obviously got your Tielemans, your Madison, Dewsbury Hall's been really good for them this season. Daka, I've always said, has been a good signing for him, and he's come good. Lookman, they probably, would rather Harvey Barnes be hitting form so he could be back in the team like he was sort of before his injury. But Leicester need to put it together because they sort of have an absolute hangover from sort of winning the FA Cup, winning the Charity Shield, and they haven't been able to sort of kick on, and they've obviously missed out on Champions League football a couple of times, and they can't get in it. And now, obviously, they're falling out of Europe completely. They can't even get in the Conference League. And I think that if I'm right, they're out of the Europa League. Are they in the Conference League now for the knockout stages?
Yeah, they have got Randers on Thursday.
So, again, they are still in that.
They're in the Europa Conference.
They're still in it, but who knows? And as Reece said there, the injuries don't help them with Ndidi starting at centre-back. I know Chowdhury's played in the back three as well as a right centre-back. So it's not helping them, the centre-back injuries. And you'd expect, maybe players like Soyuncu and Vestergaard who've been there in the Prem to step up and perform when there's no one else there. And they have just been absolutely dreadful. And when you take Ndidi out of your midfield and you have to play him in defence, I think Liverpool fans seen it last season when Henderson and I think, who else was it? Fabinho had to play there for one game. You lose a massive, part of your midfield and of your structure. So they need to try and turn results into positive ones. Maybe that starts on Thursday. Oh, sorry, not Thursday. I don't know when they got a game, who they got this weekend. We'll get onto that. But they do need to start picking up wins because they're not doing great at the minute. Obviously, they won't get relegated, but they don't want to just finish mid-table this season. They want to try and at least push. Can they get that conference place? Because I don't see them getting any other place.
Well, it's interesting about Leicester because at the Villa games that I've been to this season, I went to watch Villa Leicester in a 2-1 win for us, and despite Leicester going 1-0 up, I always felt confident. This was one of Gerrard's first games as Villa manager, and even then, you could see the wheels falling off Leicester completely. Sionchu played that day with a Marte, I think. And Sionchu was all over the shop. Really, really poor. Leicester they just really didn't look like there was much balance there in the side. And Leicester have been a team that over the last few seasons under Brendan Rodgers have been have been credited a lot for how phenomenal and free-flowing their football has been, and the results against the big sides and going into Europe and doing so well. And they just really haven't been at the races this season. And look, I don't want to talk about Leicester for too long, but they are struggling. They are getting bad results. And like Jack has just said here, which we're going to move on to, they've got West Ham on Sunday. That's a game that I'm looking at, and I'm looking at Jarrod Bowen and thinking he's going to have a field day around that defence, especially the one that played yesterday against Liverpool. So worrying times for Leicester. There was a lot of comments about Leicester there. So, yeah, clear problems there. And just the last game of the game week, Wolves 0, Arsenal 1. A fantastic result for Arsenal, given that Gabriel Martinelli got one of the most miraculous, petulant sending offs I think I've seen in the Premier League in a long time. I think actually very, very similar to the Raul Jimenez one away to Man City for Wolves a little while ago. But nonetheless, a very good result against a very informed Wolves side. So for Arsenal, this was a massive result, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, Wolves have been that team that's sort of gone under the radar a little bit. It's how sort of well they've done this season. The thing with Wolves is they've got a really good defensive record, but offensively, they haven't got a great one. That's the only issue with them. So when Arsenal obviously got their goal, you know, it obviously wouldn't have taken a miracle, but, you know, would you fancy Wolves to maybe score twice and win the game? Not really. So probably the worst Arsenal maybe would have got is a point, worst case scenario. So, but again, I want to speak about the red card because that's the clear talking point of this game. I don't care whether the ref has not been able to have time to book you. If you stop someone taking a throw with your hands, that's a booking. And then you make a tactical foul. Those are two bookings. Now, I understand the side of the argument where how many times is a player on a yellow and they get told one more foul and you're done. They get given that extra one. I get that. But because it happens so quickly, like it's a tactical foul, most of them result in yellow cards. They're two sending offs. They're soft sending yellow cards to lead to sending off. But like you mentioned, it happened with Raul Jimenez against City. So, you know, but I mean, Martinelli, I don't know what he's thinking. I really don't. And, you know, Arsenal will be lucky.
I don't know how
fortunate
people
to get
can
the result.
argue it, mate. I really don't know how people can argue it. I think it's two of the most blatant yellow cards, and I don't know how Arsenal fans can actually argue it. If you, as a player, maybe this sort of decision will actually make Premier League players think that they can't do two things close together and only get one yellow for it. He's pushed Podence as he's taking a throw. That's stopping someone from a counter-attacking throw. That's a yellow card. And then wiping out Semedo when he's clearly running into space. That's another yellow card. For Martinelli, it's silly because you're giving the referee a decision to make. And he didn't need to make the foul. Arsenal had 7... If you look at the still image, Arsenal had 7 players in that defensive third ready to defend the attack. He didn't need to make the foul. So when Arsenal fans cry about it, firstly, you still got the result. And secondly, he's missing for a game because it's 2 yellows. So it's petulant, it's stupid, it's silly, and you've got no arguments for me. He's made 2 fouls that are yellow card offences. Anywhere else on the pitch in isolation, he needed to be sent off. It was ridiculous, but it had to be done. But on the game, great win for Arsenal. Like you said, Wolves really struggled to score goals. It almost seems as though Wolves need to go a goal ahead to actually get the result. You know, they've got a lot of players that don't really seem to be firing. Pedro Neto's been injured a lot this season, who was their main source of goals the season before. Obviously, they lost to Dama Traore, not that he was doing much. Jimenez isn't really the same player as before, but because they're so good at the back defensively, I think they've got the second best defensive Premier League record behind Man City this season. They do get results from how solid they are at the back. So it was a banana skin for Arsenal, really, and they've somehow managed to come out of it with 10 men for the last 20 minutes and got the big 3 points. We've got roughly 10, 15 minutes left before we are going to leave tonight. So we're going to really quickly run through these predictions because I want to leave 2 to 3 minutes at the end to speak about Argyle-Chelsea, which myself and Braden were both at. Man United, Southampton, quick prediction, Braden.
I want to back United and say we'll get a win, but with Southampton's result against Tottenham, they're going to be on some high after that. So, do you know what? No, we won't keep a clean sheet. I go 2-1 United, just because I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, but I think we have to start picking up wins. So it has to start from tomorrow.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-1. I think Man United will score first, and I think Southampton will peg them back in the second half. I've got to be honest. I think Saints are on a bit of a roll, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was 2-1 United. I do think both teams will score. Brentford Palace, I'm going to go 0-0. I think both teams might struggle to break each other down. I'm going to go for a really boring 0-0. I think it'll be a draw either way, either 1-1 or 0-0, but I'm going to back the 0-0.
I'm going to go 1-0.
Okay. Yeah, I think a draw is a sensible one on that one. Everton Leeds.
Oh, what a game.
On the basis of Everton and Leeds' last game, 4-4. Oh, Jesus. Go on, mate. I'll let you fire this one off.
Oh, do you know what? 3-2 to Everton, and it'll be a Van der Beek winner.
What a game. What a game. I'm going to go 2-1 Everton. Yeah, I'll go 2-1 Everton on that one. Watford Brighton, big game for Watford. This Brighton, they're just steady. Brighton are. I'm gonna go 2-1 Brighton. I think Watford are going to struggle to cope with Brighton's forward play. But just want to quickly touch upon Brighton. They have just lost Dan Ashworth, who was their technical director, someone that me and you are fully aware of. They have lost him. He has gone to Newcastle. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Brighton replace him and who they replace him with, because he was a very important part to their recruitment and what was going on the pitch. So, but I am going to go Watford to lose at home 2-1 to Brighton.
Yeah, I'm going to join you, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if Watford did nick a point. You know, it seems the type of game Watford would grind out a point. But I think Brighton probably do have a bit too much quality to maybe draw or lose the game. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if Watford did get something.
Norwich Man City, I'd like to say that Dean Smith's going to keep his unbeaten streak going in the last 3 games, but I mean, 3-0 City, it's just not going to be anything else, is it? It's not going to be a repeat of the first season that Norwich beat them 3-2. Let's put that straight. It ain't happening. Otherwise, do you know, I might put a quid on it just in case. But yeah.
I think it's just a question of whether City want to make it double figures or not in this game. I'll probably go 3-0 City. Mate, in fact, I'll go 3-1 because you never know. Norwich might nick a goal.
Generous.
Yeah,
generous that. Burnley Liverpool. Now, I was looking at this. Do you know what? I think 1-0 Liverpool. I think Liverpool will be all over them, and I could see Salah coming back and getting his goal fresh from the African Cup of Nations despair. So yeah, I am going to go 1-0 Liverpool on that one. I think it'll be tight, but I think they'll do it.
I'm going to go 1-1 because Burnley have a knack of just being absolute. I'm not going to swear again, but you know what I mean. They just grind out teams. They battle away, and watch just get clipped when they lose 5-0 or something. But I just think Burnley, like you said, they've got games in hand, but they seem to do semi-decent against teams around the top just because of the way they play. And I'm going to go 1-1. Maybe Weghorst gets his first goal.
Yeah, I think big Wout Weghorst is going to. I reckon he might cause a few problems, that Liverpool back four. Aston Villa versus Newcastle. I've got to be honest, I have no confidence going into this game. I'd love to be able to lie and say that I'm buzzing for this, but I'm really not. Newcastle on top of the world, beat Everton, beat Leeds. They've got a real sort of momentum going. Bruno Guimaraes is probably going to get his full Premier League debut. Oh, God. It's one of those that Villa are going to have to be bang up for. No Matt Target for Newcastle because he is on loan from Aston Villa, so he will not be able to play against us. So I imagine Dan Burn will probably slot in, but I'm going to go 1-1. I'm not confident at all. I think Newcastle are going to be bang up for it on a Sunday afternoon at St James's Park, and I'm worried a bit after our defensive display. And if people watch Villa Leeds, I think you'll see why. So I'm going to go 1-1. I think if we score first, I think we'll be all right to get something out of the game. But I really do fear for us if Newcastle get the goal and that momentum with the fans comes through. So I'm going to go 1-1.
I'm going to go 2-2. I think it'll be a cracker. And like I said, the thing...
Desmond.
Yeah, I think with Newcastle, I think they still do have faculties in their defence with Lascelles. I know he had a good game against Everton, but I'm not convinced. Dan Burn maybe coming in. That'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Obviously, Bruno Guimaraes coming in as well. But you still got quality in your team. You've got goals in your team, as we've seen against Leeds. So I think it'll be 2-2.
Okay. Last couple of games, Tottenham v Wolves.
Do you know what? Tottenham at home again. 2-1 Tottenham.
Oh, do you know what? Oh, I really do fancy Wolves to bounce back,
Both teams need to do so.
I think both teams are going to score in this game, weirdly. I think it could... 2-1's really not a bad shout here in favour of Tottenham. But I do think that Wolves are going to make it really... I'm going to go 1-1. I think Wolves are going to make this really difficult for Tottenham. And I think Tottenham's chance to get the home win really was Southampton. I think Wolves are a bit of a different kettle of fish with how solid they are at the back. You watch it end 3-0 to Tottenham, but... I'm going to go 1-1. From the last game, oh, wow. I mean, there's some tasty ties on Sunday, let me tell you. Them last four are looking decent, although I will be tuning into my one, of course. Leicester, West Ham. You may as well just bet on Jarrod Bowen to score at this point because he's the only West Ham player that seems to be scoring. I'm going to go 3-0 West Ham. I think West Ham are going to turn up there and absolutely palm misery on Leicester. And I think Brendan Rodgers might be the final nail in the coffin.
Think he's going to get sacked after this game?
If they get beat by 2 or 3 goals, I think people will start to question him. I've got to be honest.
I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham.
Yeah. A Leicester win here, I think, would be definitely a shock because they have not been playing well at all. And West Ham have seemed to have steadied it a little bit from the little blip they had. I think Leicester will win or lose this one 3-0. 2 or 3-0, really. I'd back Bowen to get a double. I think him versus Luke Thomas for 90 minutes. If you're at the King Power, I think you're having kittens. Jarrod Bowen coming in on that left foot. It's a deadly left foot, although he is a blue nose, which annoys the hell out of me. But yeah, I think Leicester will win that one. No, Leicester will lose that one. Sorry. So Braden, look, if you've got to plod off, we can talk about Chelsea Argyle another time.
No, so I got 5-10 minutes. That's not too bad.
Okay, mate. So bang it on. Chelsea 2, Plymouth Argyle 1. Now, me and Braden were both at this game, as well as Morg, who was on the last stream. All three of us went to this game. Absolutely nuts day. I was levered, as I think most of us were. I dropped Braden a call. I tried to drop Braden a call in the ground. Tried to drop him a call. Well, I think we actually spoke to each other on the way back about it.
Yeah,
mate. The most magnificent of FA Cup shocks. We were nearly there for it, and oh, go on, mate. Take the stage. Take the stage.
Well, I mean, what a day. I mean, the one thing that I can firstly say is Steven Schumacher and the whole squad have put out a performance that no Argyle fan can criticise at all. They went absolutely toe-to-toe with the champions of Europe and maybe soon to be the best team in the world. And to be honest, Argyle probably did deserve a draw out of the game. And,
100%.
Obviously, we'll speak about the goals and, we took such an early lead. And obviously, in terms of where I was sitting as well, it was just pure shock. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. And, the Argyle fans deserved that moment, that goal, because I said before the game, we've been to Anfield in the FA Cup, we've drawn 0-0, and obviously we lost in the replay 1-0. We've been to Wembley before, we didn't score there either. So we needed a moment that we could just celebrate at a big ground. And, where there was 6,000, I think, on the day, Argyle fans, maybe more. Well, there was definitely more, but not all of them were in the Argyle end.
Definitely more in the ground from what I saw.
Yeah, 100%. So, again, fantastic ball in from Hoots and Gillespie with a header. And, of course, Lukaku got pelters in that game for not playing well. He lost his man as well for the goal. But obviously Chelsea have the quality and they come back with a very well-worked goal with Azpilicueta. Again, more into the second half, scored a similar goal to make it 2-1. Oh, sorry, that was in extra time. It was 2-1. But Argyle, again, even in the second half and in extra time, I thought, the quality would really outdo us. But we played some fantastic stuff at times. We defended as good as any team has probably ever played at Stamford Bridge before. I mean, we were that good defensively. And, at the end of the day, we'll fast forward it to the penalty. I mean, I'm gutted for Hardy, of course. I'm gutted because, I think we did deserve a draw out the game, and most Chelsea fans would probably agree with that Argyle deserved to take that to penalties. And, it was a big moment in a big game at a big time, and, he missed it. So what? At the end of the day, I mean, it'd be fantastic to take them to penalties, but what a day for the club, for the city. And I think what's pleasing is Hardy's response in League One after the game. He's got a hat trick in his next game, which was magnificent, and there was no sort of hangover at the minute from that Chelsea loss either. But like I said, the squad, the manager, the fans can be immensely proud of what was put out from obviously Argyle on that day. It was a magnificent day, fantastic to watch it. And, Chelsea had to play near enough their starting 11 to get through this game. And I don't think Chelsea played poor. I don't think, they were really terrible. I think we were just above. I can't even use superlatives to say how good Argyle was on the day. And, we pushed them all the way. And, a day, it's unfortunate. We were almost on the end, like you said, of a massive cup set. But, we focus on League One now. And like I said, there's a massive playoff push coming towards the end of the season. So let's see where that takes us. But again, every Argyle player, fan, associate with the club, the city must have been immensely proud of that day.
Yeah, it was an absolutely unbelievable effort from Argyle. I was waxing lyrical about Schumacher on the way back. Tactically, got it absolutely spot on, and someone showed me the stats after the game, and Chelsea had 41 shots, 11 on target. Someone told me, and I said, "Do you know what? On the balance of play, I actually think Plymouth deserved to get either a draw or a win because the way that Argyle defended, the areas that they forced Chelsea into, Argyle defended absolutely phenomenally. The Joe Edwards in the second half, the most unbelievable last-ditch tackle to stop Kai Havertz from a certain goal. Dan Scarr, Mikey Cooper, I could go on for years talking about Dan Scarr and Mike Cooper. Houghton, absolutely phenomenal in the middle of that part. Not a single Argyle player for me looked out of place on that pitch. And, I've watched a lot of Argyle this season and I've been mightily impressed. Absolutely over the moon with a lot of the performances that Argyle have had this season. And I think you got a lot of players that if Argyle don't go up this season, I think you're going to lose a few. Because on the basis of what I saw on Saturday, I come out the ground saying that Dan Scarr and Mikey Cooper are going to play in the Premier League in the next 2 years. Because I do, especially Cooper, that save from Mason Mount, what a wonder save. That actually won save of the round of the FA Cup, and no surprise. I mean, England under 20 international, that's the sort of standard that you're going to get. But what an effort from Argyle. I thought Ryan Hardy, apart from the penalty miss, did brilliant when he come on. Thought he ran the channels really well. He gave a bit of a different dynamic. Garrick has got that pace, but he wasn't really causing them any problems. Hardy, when he came on, they didn't really know what to do with him. And he won the penalty brilliantly. And Broom had an effort that was saved and then had another effort blocked. And Argyle was so unlucky not to take Chelsea to pens. I was absolutely gutted that they didn't. And in our little area, we were told to remain neutral. We were told to not celebrate any Plymouth goals because they knew that we were down south and we were Argyle. And a few of the lads that we were with didn't take 10 seconds to make it obvious that they were Argyle. On the video that I got of Argyle scoring, you can hear one of the others absolutely scream their head off. But what a day. What a day. I mean, it was a phenomenal atmosphere at Stamford Bridge, a stadium that I'd never been to before. So one ticked off the bucket list. Brilliant experience. Argyle fans just should be so proud of a performance like that. And like you said as well, Ryan Hardy's reaction to then go and score a hat-trick against Crewe in the league a couple of days afterwards, he looked on the floor after that penalty miss. And you can beg thought what he was going through that night, missing a pen like that. As much as everyone was proud, you have to feel for the player there. But Chelsea, for me, were a little bit underwhelming. Didn't think they played particularly well. I thought Marcus Alonso changed the game. I thought it was his link up that Chelsea actually started to look an elite level football team. Ziyech was good as well. I think Ziyech and Alonso were really the only two for me from Chelsea that really impressed me. Apart from that, I thought the rest were quite average, and that's why, when Plymouth step up their level, they didn't look out of place at all. So look, what a day it was, regardless of the fact that Argyle lost, but they came so close. And, we can both say that we were there to watch Argyle take Chelsea's first 11 to extra time and somehow missed a penalty in the last minute to take them 2 penalties. And you just sat here wondering, aren't you, if Argyle had have took them to penalties, what would have happened? And that's something that we're just never going to get to know the answer of. But
we're not. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, when we look at the Chelsea Argyle game, I mean, it was a weird feeling coming out the ground because, of course, we were absolutely devastated and gutted that we just couldn't. Obviously, Hardy couldn't put the ball in the net to take it to penalties because, again, if we lost on penalties, I mean, the boys couldn't have done much more. They literally couldn't have done.
No.
But also at the same time, it's just immensely being proud of the performance that was put in front of us. And like you said, to take them pretty much all the way to penalties, to have them on the ropes, especially in extra time when we started to go for it a bit more and try and nick an equaliser. Chelsea were looking a little bit shaky as well at times. So I think the best thing that summed up the whole game is the passage of play, which we've got shown on Match of the Day as well afterwards, where there is some passes going from back to front, and there's the half volleys in there. There's a little pops in the air, short passes, and then the ball in behind from Gillespie to Hardy, and then obviously the shot gets saved from Kepa. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And this is the champions of Europe, probably soon to be the best team in the world, get absolutely bopped around by a team in League One. And, like I said, fantastic performance and occasion for the whole city, for the club. It's just, you sit there and wonder, what if that ball had hit the net? Because, who knows? The penalty's a lottery, so who knows what could have happened after it. I do reckon we probably would have won on pens, with that psychological, if that had gone in, we're on the ascendancy going into penalties, we probably would have won it. But, I'm sure as the TikTok trend goes, I guess we'll never know.
Well, what a show today. Braden, it has been an absolute pleasure as always to have you back on. Guys, we promised that regular content would be returning to the channel. Reese, thank you for... Oh, I've got to do it. Come on, Shuey.
Shoes off if you love Shuey. Shoes off.
Yeah, look, guys, thank you for every single one of you that have come into the stream today and interacted with us. So many comments. And look, we are going to be back with regular content. I promised it on the first stream. We are going to be back now with regular content, whether it's Braden, whether it's Morg, whether it's me. People will be on here. We will be talking Premier League and football in general. Maybe a bit of Argyle every week because, you've got to you've got to love the Argyle. But we thank every single one of you for jumping into the stream today. Thank you for your comments. Look, like and subscribe. Drop comments below on this video, on this stream. Me and Braden have loved every minute of it. And I guess we will see you guys, hopefully, we will confirm those. So stay tuned on the socials. Hopefully the same time next week. Take care, guys. And up the Villa, up the Argyle. And hopefully Man United don't slip up against Southampton.
Come on, you tricky bastard Reds. Come on.
Take care, guys, and we will see you soon.
See you later, boys.